Good afternoon or good evening, depending on when you're listening. This is the Fantasy College Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Tony DeMarco. Thank you, everybody, for clicking and joining our podcast this week. You're probably wondering why, after you look at this podcast, why we're wearing different clothes. Well, that's because me and my co-host, Todd, how you doing? First, by the way.
Good, doing great.
We were recording with Kevin Claunch for this Reckless Speculation episode, and we kind of hit right up against the Olympics starting, so we had to quickly end it and go and watch America do great things, and that's why we're kind of wearing different clothes this time. But Todd, Olympics ended when we're recording this, and I think it was a pretty successful cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. All five guys medaled. It was, more than you could probably hope for. Obviously that some of the medals weren't the color that the guys wrestling wanted. But top three in the world is pretty darn good. And as a team, taking second to, a bunch of dirty, rotten cheaters is not too bad.
That Olympic committee that
you're
talking about. I mean, I think out of the men's and women's freestyle, they've got 9 medals.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Greco-Roman didn't get any, but they had 1 out of 5 matches won, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
So obviously we knew coming in, Greco's not our strong suit, but the freestyle team, men and women, balled out. All 5 of the guys, like you said, medaled. I think 2 of the women, was it Miracle and Winchester? Didn't.
Yeah.
But still had great showings, stuff like that. I mean, for me, I'm a total folk style guy. I like folk style. I'm not the biggest freestyle fan, but I got to say, this was an exciting Olympics for me. It had me on the edge of the seat when I was awake. That is, when I could actually comprehend what was going on. But what about you? Did this cycle change for you? Your thoughts on freestyle or anything?
No, I like freestyle. There's a couple of rules that I wish they would change. I don't like it as much as folk style. I don't like the exposure stuff as much. Kind of like the fact that you should have to score first before you can score points. As you saw in the Sajalayev match, he shot 0 times and wound up winning 6-3 on 3 exposures. So Snyder did all the work. Sajalayev gets all the points. But that's part of freestyle, and you got to adapt. But no, overall, I thought it was great wrestling. 2 of the best, finals matches you could ever hope for. David Taylor winning late, and then you don't think anybody could win any later than that. And Stevenson winds up winning with like 0.3 seconds left.
Hold my beer.
Yeah, that was 2 of the best, Olympic matches I've ever watched. So that was exciting. It was a lot of exciting wrestling.
Yeah, and a couple things to touch on there. One, go online, go to Twitter, go to @WrestleChicago, Ross Bendick. He's got one of those wallpapers that he does. He was doing the U.S. men's and women's singlets with your name on it if you wanted. He did one of Taylor with the rip singlet if you want that as your background.
Yeah.
So hit him up. I think he's got that out. He can send that over to you. So plug for him. But a couple things that you were talking about, like, I know I'll get shit for it, but that's an aspect of freestyle that I don't like, is that obviously the incentive to shoot is to score points on your opponent. But a lot of time, I don't know what the actual numbers are. It's probably a lot lower than what I think it is. But how many times is the offensive wrestler scored on first in that kind of half turn, kind of head pinch kind of thing? Because that's all Sedgelive did. And granted, they both know the rules. They knew what they were getting into. Snyder didn't finish quick enough. He didn't keep his hips down or whatever. And the Russian Olympic Committee had their game plan. But I think that's kind of cheap, that he shoots in, he's working the score, and then it's just a quick off to the side, and that's 6 points essentially for him.
Yeah.
I think he got a couple step outs too, maybe. I don't know. That's an aspect of freestyle that I think needs to be improved, but I don't know what that rule set would be, to
yeah.
shoot.
I think maybe a rule, and I don't, it gets too arbitrary. Maybe a rule change could be, for exposure, you only get 1 point instead of 2. That way it could still incentivize you to get the takedown. That way, if you get exposed on the way in for a takedown and the guy gets 1, but you get 2 for the takedown, at least you're ahead.
Would turns in that case still be 2 for you then? In part,
I guess, like, like head pinches or whatever could still be, for 4 if you throw a guy or if you roll a guy with a head pinch.
Well, I
'Cause
mean,
that's that's
if
more
you
of an offensive move if you're, doing
so if you
something.
scored takedown and then you do like a gut or something, that's still 2, or are
Yeah,
you saying that's still that would be
no, that would
1?
still be 2 because
Okay, so
you've
without
already,
control, essentially, it's 1 point.
yeah, exactly.
Okay,
And
I
I
could
think
get on board with that.
that would be hard to officiate, but I think it would be more fair than
Mhm.
the every time you just go, anywhere near your back, it's 2 points for the other person. Like, I don't know. It's just, it seems cheap to me that you just get those quick 2s when the other guy's doing all the work, or a
Yeah.
woman is
And
doing all the work.
one of the other big things here was the Stevenson match, which my bet slips came in from from
Yeah.
that. The whole issue with cutting him,
Yeah.
and I saw a couple tweets out there before the medal stand talking about how it was not legal or something like that, quickly deleted and then put back up, just in case, I guess, in case there was some type of petition. Now that they have the medals, nothing can be changed. I kind of like to see the ref doing that. I know what the rules say. The rule is basically that the wrestler cannot dictate the flow of the match, which doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
But we've seen it so many times, and if you go back with people's comments in the Twitter sphere, because that's where I'm mainly based, how many times I saw during this Olympic games, I can't believe they're leaving them on top this long. Why are they letting them ride this long? There were so many of those. It's kind of refreshing to see the other side of, okay, they're obviously going to just be laying there, put them back up.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, I mean, if you don't have rules set in stone, then you're going to have issues like this. If
Right.
there was a clock, like a shot clock, and when you got on top, it was, you had, 8 seconds to turn the guy, and there was a clock that was counting down. And you could say, well, I have 8 seconds on top or 8 seconds on bottom. And so that in that case, maybe Gable loses. But at the same time, I like the fact that Gable's like, hey, I don't want to try to turn the guy. Let's get back on our feet and wrestle. And the rest like, okay. And put them back on their feet,
Also, because
put them back on their feet. And
it's like a stalling technique for the guy in the lead.
Yeah.
That's what he essentially did. Percivalli went down, took a bad shot and got taken down with 11 seconds left because he knew he thought he knew that the ref was going to make Stevenson try to turn,
right?
And he didn't. I kind of like that. I like the ref saying, "No, you can't dictate when."
I kind of like I like the option to be the top man. If I want to try to turn you, fine. But if I want to go back on our feet, then that should be my option to let you up and start again and
give some type of cut or something like that.
Yeah, like free or folk style when you just go show the ref neutral. Then they can have the same thing in freestyle. Like, hey, I show the ref neutral. I don't want to try to turn the guy. I want to go back on my feet, and that'd be the top man's decision.
And I think Coach Ayers of Princeton put out a couple things. Anytime we have a big tournament or a controversy in some type of match, there's always everybody that comes out, myself included, of this is what I think the changes should be, or these are my ideas for change. And one of his was the get rid of, or let the top wrestler basically say, let's go neutral, let's go top.
Yeah.
And I think somebody may have, I forget who it was, said that would diminish our parterre skills, which I don't necessarily agree with, because it's like in folk style, you still have those wrestlers like Lezak or any of those other, Lezak's the only one coming to mind right now, who are top specialists.
Yeah, Rutherford.
Second period comes, they choose top.
Yeah.
So you're still going to have those guys who can do well. And honestly, from a spectator, top, you can manufacture a leg lace, but a lot of it is kind of falling into that good position to begin with.
Yeah,
it seems to me,
mean,
untrained eye.
Like you said, if they're top specialists and they have an elite gut wrench or an elite leg lace, then they can stay on top and try to work that.
Like Lopez.
Yeah.
Lopez, he scored, I think, maybe the most points in Greco from parterre. I might be making that stat up. That's why people come to this show to listen to made up stats. But he's a top specialist, and he won his 4th Olympic gold in a row, consecutive gold. I think a rule like you were saying, 1 point for exposure without any control, that's something I could get on board with.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
So Olympics, and I mean, if you want to count Miles Martin too, we talk about Miles a little bit
You
in the
mean
specific Kevin Claunch.
Miles Amin?
Yeah, Miles Martin, right? Miles Amin. I'm sorry. I can't cut that out. But Miles Amin, if you want to claim him for the United States too, at
Yeah.
least half credit, so 9.5 medals. San Marino getting their third Olympic medal this games, first ever in wrestling, first ever medalists. You know, San Marino super team coming to the Olympics. So
Yeah.
congrats. Overall, I think it was a great Olympics. We had great showing. I think hopefully somebody puts out the statistics of viewership, because I think it's going to be big. Even though it was 12, 13-hour difference, people were staying up. You saw the internet was very active during every session too.
Yeah. It was great for the sport of wrestling. With, you know, them putting the Taylor match on prime time for people to rewatch it, the Gable match, and even the bronze medal matches, and even the Snyder silver medal match. That was all on TV for people to at least catch, you know, the medal match, which I think helps bolster, you know, viewership. And going forward, you know, I hope what John Smith and what Jordan Burroughs said happens. I hope more people get on the Olympic committee to put more weight classes back in the Olympics for wrestling, because you know, we need it. I mean, the men's freestyle needs it. I think the women's freestyle could use it. Even the Greco-Roman, if you just, you know, give us maybe 2 weight classes per, you know, for each group, then, you know, 8 is obviously better than 6. I think 8 would be obviously not ideal. Ideal would probably be 10, but I'd settle for 8 to get more guys on the team, more chances to win medals.
It sounds bad, but we'll take what we can get, kind of. At this point, it would be nice. And NBC, I think, has botched the whole calendar of events and where to go to stream it and everything. But if you were locked into one sport, they did make it a little easy for you. You know, I'm glad that the Olympic channel was kind of set to doing wrestling in total, in full. And then you had the 3 mats all streaming at the same time, so you could watch it. That was nice. And then one other thing, moving into the college realm, a nice little transition into this podcast that we did. Some other big news. There's always big news going on in college wrestling with transfer portal now and everything. But the name, image, likeness rule came down, and as of, I think, July 1st, it was open season for athletes to sign endorsement deals, sponsorship deals, things like that. What was your initial take when you heard that, and what do you think is going to come out of it this year, maybe, or moving forward?
I love it. I would never begrudge anybody to get their money. You know, get your money however you can get it, because you know, money's sometimes scarce in this world. So if you can make some money off of your name, image, and likeness, then go for it. I love it. I hope it leads to less power for the NCAA. I think the NCAA has way too much power as it is. You know, these poor kids can't even get a can of soda from somebody without, you know, the NCAA investigating it. They can't get a ride on a frigging golf cart to class without getting in trouble. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So anything that takes power away from the NCAA and puts it more in the athletes' hands, I'm 100% for.
Yeah, I think there was a story out of Fresno State that was saying the one wrestler had to go pay his parking tickets but didn't have a car or something, and they loaned him, you know, the $120 to pay the tickets or something, which he ended up paying back. But that was a whole issue. Go Fresno State, save Fresno State wrestling. That whole like 1 cent is potential for eligibility issue from the NCAA was ridiculous. There had to have been a leeway, and I think in the short run, there's definitely wrestlers that wrestling specific is going to be beneficial. So you have your Roman Bravo Young, you have your Spencer Lee, you have Gable Steveson. Will he come back after this? I don't know. That's a whole nother story podcast for Corby and Willie to do. But you look at some of the, you know, maybe not as visible wrestlers, good but not visible. Are they going to be getting the kind of endorsement deals as some of those bigger names? Probably not. How much, you know, I think there was a good article that was written that said that the average amount for college sponsorship was like $927 or something. Which, you know, as a college student, that goes a long way.
Oh yeah.
A long, long way. You can buy a lot of a lot of pencils and books for
Yeah.
$927. But what do you think it does long run, not for the individual wrestlers? Because I agree with you. I think, you know, this is my brand. I've built this. I should benefit from it in some way. You know, if I'm a good photographer or I'm a good filmer or you know, something like that, movie maker, why am I a director in college, and Steven Spielberg comes to me and says, "Hey, I want you to be on this project with me." It's not like I get kicked out of school because I go to work on a project with Steven Spielberg. You know,
Right.
the thing, and get payment from him. You know, they're not like, "Oh, you're not an amateur photographer anymore or artist." I think the same thing should apply to sports, which it looks like it's going in that direction. But from a program standpoint, there's obviously the haves and the have-nots of programs. You have your Iowa, Oklahoma State, Penn State. Mainly, you know, Big Ten schools have a lot more power than, say, SoCon schools do, even though there are very powerful boosters and followers of those of every team, not just SoCon, but, you know, every team, Pac-12, Big 12. We'll see if Big 12 even stays alive after this. But do you think that's going to have a ripple effect with the NIL in coming years with, I don't know, more powerful recruits or even lesser recruits, so to speak? You know, the 75 overall recruit in the nation or the 100 overall recruit going to Penn State, and I'm just saying Penn State, not because he is going to be a starter, he might be the third guy in that room at that weight, but because he's going to have the Penn State brand behind him. That's more of a
Yeah.
reason for him to go. He's an outgoing guy. He's got a personality. He's got a Twitter following. He could, you know, be someone at another school. He could be a national contender or something like that, or, you know, AA contender. But at Penn State, he's behind, you know, Starachi. Is that going to play into it? And my other fear is that our school is going to start putting roster limits because of costs. I don't think so. I don't, because the NIL won't affect necessarily the school, but we've seen stupider things happen.
Yeah. I think I mean the imbalance is already there. I mean the
Yeah.
power programs are still going to be the power programs with NIL or not. I mean Penn State and Iowa and Oklahoma State and all those, Ohio State, they're all going to still be dominating the recruiting classes.
Mhm.
But I think what this could do is maybe help some of the smaller schools where they're like, hey, if you come here, we have, you know, we have an agreement with a t-shirt company. So you'll get some of the t-shirts money that we sell from our, you know, school. So maybe some of those schools can actually use this to help recruiting with name, image, and likeness as part of attached to their scholarship, where they get a percentage of whatever the school sells in wrestling gear or TV or whatever it might be. You know, that might be an incentive to get people to go to other schools.
That would be very interesting. And it's been said many times. It's the basic phrase of this situation is it's the Wild West right now. It's a lawless community in a sense, because there's a whole lot of things that people are confused about. Is this legal? I mean, we had compliance issues with just mundane things from school to school. Now we're putting in money, and, you know, whenever you put money in the things, it always fucks things up. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. If, you know, if, I don't know, Davidson gets a dealership sponsorship and 1% of vehicle sales go to the wrestling program, and then that's spread out evenly between the school, is that going to play into someone who's a local recruit? You know, that's a good point. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out. Like you said, it's in its infancy right now, so
Yeah.
we'll see how it grows.
Yeah. But why don't we get to the podcast? So we recorded a new season of Reckless Speculation. We started because we're way too early. Hardly any schools have their schedules out at this point. a handful of schools have their rosters updated fully with, true freshmen and returning seniors because of last year's eligibility. And so why not get into our recklessness of speculating what some teams are going to be doing, what things are going to be looking like. So we decided, just like we did last year, we're going to start with Michigan schools. So we did Michigan State, Central Michigan, and Michigan University, or the University of Michigan, however you say it.
University of Michigan.
And of course, we got Kevin Claunch on again, our first repeat guest. So hope you guys and gals enjoy this. Let us know if there's anything that we missed. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that we missed, but I hope you guys enjoy the show.
Enjoy it.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Fantasy College Wrestling Podcast. We are back with a new series of Reckless Speculation. We started this last year, and our first returning guest, actually, Kevin Claunch from the Bloodround. Kevin, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm really, really good. I'm excited to talk college wrestling, man. It's as we're recording this, we're wrapping up the Olympics, but I can't tell you how excited I am for this year's college wrestling season with the NCAAs in Detroit, with it being a full schedule again, with the news that they're doing a national duels. It's so much that we just didn't get last year that I can't wait to talk through and digest, and yeah, I'm pumped.
Yeah, and we're coming to you on Thursday, and depending on where you are in Tokyo or in the United States or somewhere else, this was actually a very good day for Michiganders,
yeah.
Michiganders, with Miles Amin getting bronze for San Marino.
Heavy run. Yeah, it was outrageous. I mean, first ever wrestler for San Marino to win an Olympic medal. I think they said that it was the third ever Olympic medal for the country of San Marino. So, I mean, for anybody out there who's like, wrestle for America, why are you out there wrestling for other countries? It's like, you know what? Hey, I think this kind of helps, right? Get San Marino out there. Miles is going to be a legend there for the rest of his life,
How many newborn babies are going to be named Miles?
Not only that, but if he wrestles for America, he doesn't even make the team because the gold medalist was the United States representative. So he gets to wrestle for another country and get bronze, which is better than sitting at home not wrestling at all.
Right, which is basically proof, hey, he's still third best in the world.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, it's awesome. I'm super pumped. We've had him on the Bloodround podcast before, and he's a super nice guy, and hope to have him again afterwards and get his thoughts and experiences on how that went. So
yeah, that's going to be awesome. And you were talking about San Marino had two other medalists that came in this Olympics. I don't think before this Olympics they had any medalists ever.
Oh wow, I see. I didn't know that either.
Yeah, so they had three all-time medals, and one is Miles, and two are from shooting or something like that.
Nice.
So this is San Marino's dream team, basically.
It pretty much is. When you mentioned earlier, kids are going to be named Miles. My son, my youngest, is Miles with a Y, and I'll be honest, it wasn't intentionally for Miles Amin, who I think at that time was 2 or 3 time All-American, but I mean, it might as well be now.
That's the story we're going with.
Yeah, I'm going to tell him
that. Well, we appreciate you coming on, and kind of to break down what this is. We're basically way before the start of the season. We're 2-3 months out before November 1st, and we did this last year because everything was up in the air. We didn't know what the season was going to look like, when it was going to start. Schedules weren't coming out, rosters weren't really coming out. This year we have a better idea. We know it's going to be a full year, but surprisingly, rosters are still, we only have a handful of full rosters, and we only have a handful of schedules out too. So we thought we'd bring back Reckless Speculation. Fans of the sport, fans of teams, just going wild with what they think is going to happen during the year, where we think people are going to land in the lineup, things like that. But I actually skipped something that's in our doc, and you mentioned it, Kevin. Tuesday's news from this week, National Duels is returning, and two of the teams that we're going to be talking about, Michigan and Central Michigan, are in the National Duels as well. So what are your thoughts when you first heard that news that national duels are coming back?
I was so pumped, man. I mean, this is one of those things where every time I watched it, I mean, it used to be annual, right? Or at least semi-annual or something like that back when I was in college. And I remember like Central Michigan was always in it and always like, two close matches away from upsetting like Minnesota, who was a powerhouse at the time and usually won the duels, right?
Mm.
Or at least that's how I remember it. But like we were so close so many times and then would just, lose a close match at the end. And it was tough, but like the teams cared so much. And I think coaches have differing opinions on what's important for them in their season and the end of the year, whatever. And, it's NCAA tournament. That's kind of where the focus is. And so I think, with lack of participation and excitement for the duels and wanted to focus on that, that's, kind of how it fell off. I love that they're doing it in December, the end of December now, just so that, God forbid somebody gets hurt there, they still have a couple months to get back and be ready to go for NCAA. So hopefully It's overlapping too much and affecting the level of competition and who's going to participate. So,
and I like that they did get basically all the top teams. Like they on the announcement, they have where they finished in the national tournament. There's obviously a couple missing teams. Penn State's not there. Oklahoma State's not there. I think they have something going on during that time or something. But I mean, Iowa's there. Michigan's there. You got top teams, Virginia Tech, NC State. I mean, it's going to be, I think, like pools and then top 4 move on or something like that. I don't know the exact details. But
I think how they did it back in the day was, they did kind of pool teams together and, get after it.
Yeah. And you're not going to have an easy out, really, in any of these duels, which is nice for the fans.
Well, and I think the other thing that's nice for the athletes, right? I mean, talking with Matt Stencil a couple weeks ago on our podcast, he was saying, like it kind of sucked not having anything but MAC competition last year. He is a 4-time MAC champion. So like, that's not really competition for him anymore,
Yeah.
So it's like, it's going to be great for some of these guys who want to get their hands on tough competitors out of conference, likely, I think. And to just get some good matches in, especially again, 3 months before NCAAs, you can make adjustments, you can make changes, you can figure out what you need to do. So I'm super pumped for it.
Yeah. And I mean, last year, like we were saying, the reason we did this reckless speculation, I haven't even started drinking yet, reckless speculation series was because so much was up in the air. We didn't know what the schedules were going to look like. And it came out late that it was going to be conference only for the most part. I think SoCon went out of conference a lot more and Big 12 did too, but MAC was pretty much in the MAC and Big 10 was solely Big 10. And they got hit with I think Michigan got hit with a couple of matches where they had to forfeit or postpone, which didn't end up happening. I think Penn State.
Well, it was the like one of the basketball team or somebody had like a trainer come in, and because of that, they had to shut everything down, even though wrestling isn't even in the same building as that. So it was, just keeping everyone safe, I guess.
It's going to be nice, I think, having a full season this year. I think things are a little bit more controlled. So we'll see. But why don't we get into it? Why don't we dig through? I think last year when we did this, we went team by team. Because we're trying to make this more viewer friendly, let's try to go weight by weight and go through.
Let's do it.
Instead of being the 5-hour podcast, we'll try to keep it within 2.5 or something.
I like it.
So we're talking about Michigan State last year. They were 2-5 in their dual record within the Big 10, 8-10 in 2020 when it was outside conferences too. Central Michigan was 5-2 in their dual record in the MAC, and Michigan was 5-1. They got this year is still, like I said, in flux. Michigan hasn't come out. All three, I don't think, have come out with their full rosters, but we have gotten some idea of what the rosters are going to look like, where people are going to fall. Michigan, I think, is still in flux. They're the most reckless that we can be with speculating on where people go.
Well, and because you still got like Miles Amin could technically come back again if he wants to, and I don't think he will. Just because they've still got a lot of depth there at 84 and 97 that they could get in the lineup. But we'll see,
Yeah.
But but yeah, let's rock it. Where are we starting?
So starting at 125, we'll start at 165. No, we'll 125. So with Michigan State, I think out of this grouping here, Michigan State, you have Rayvon Foley. At Central Michigan, you have Drew Hildebrandt, 2 top-tier 125 pounders. And then Michigan, you have what I have listed is Jack Medley and Kurt McHenry.
Yep.
So out of those, that grouping, I mean, I have Hildebrandt on my fantasy team, on my Mad Scouts Dynasty team. He was a number 1 fantasy guy in 2020. Fell off a little bit. He was still in the top 20 last year. I think he went 7-0 regular season. MAC, and he finished 3rd,
4th in the country. He lost to Pat McKee in the 3rd and 4th place match.
That's right.
Yeah. Minnesota though. Yes.
It was still impressive. It was an impressive run for him.
Yeah,
very impressive. And Rayvon Foley finished round of 16 last season, 5-3 during the regular season. He really seemed to come on at the end of the season. And I don't know if that has, again, speculating here, if that had anything to do with weight because of the COVID season. He didn't have, the proper time to get that weight under. It seems like a big pull for him.
Yeah. So remember too, he had the redshirt season the year before as well. So like he hadn't actually competed in, well over a year, right? At least not in anything big. And he had hurt his knee, I think, pretty bad at a freestyle tournament. That's why he took that year off. We talked with him a little bit before the season got started. And he was hungry, man. He was ready to go. Mentally, I think the weight cut is getting a little tough for him, which is crazy because he was like 112 or 119 as a senior in high school. Like he was a little dude. But yeah, I think he's now cutting. It's a tough cut for him. So, plus you got to consider the Big Ten is tough, right? As far as Michigan goes, well, you know what? No, just to get back on Ann Arbor Pioneers' finest, Rayvon Foley, he is definitely I think he's going to have a bounce back year, whether he, gets down to 125 or ends up hanging out at 133. I think he'll be just fine. I think that he'll learn from last year. And I think he's probably pretty ready to get some full season matches into, right? So, but he'll be good. It's funny because I remember earlier last season too, he lost to Pat McKee. He was beating him like 6-2 or something like that. And then McKee came back. It was a pretty crazy match. And I was like, damn it, how do you lose to a guy like Pat McKee ends up placing 3rd?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be weird. I think Rayvon will probably fall where in the draft, he won't be drafted nearly as high as he probably was last year in a lot of drafts. But I think you can get some good value there, picking him. Jack Medley is going to be the guy at 125 at Michigan. He's better than Kurt McHenry. I like Kurt McHenry. I just think he's for real too small. He kind of walks around at 120, I think. So
yeah, he only wrestled 2 matches last season, and they were close matches. He had a close match with Heinzelman, I think. And it's just what I keep hearing is weight. He's just not heavy enough. It's kind of like what Ohio State always said about Heinzelman he's not at the weight.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But Jack Medley was a team player last season. Wherever the team said to go, he went. And then I think he ran 6 marathons in during the season too, or something like that.
Like a 7-minute pace. It's a freak of nature. But the thing that you keep hearing about Medley is he's a leader in the room. He works his ass off. And, I think he, let's not forget, he missed the tournament entirely last year. He had a really bad NCAA. He's up at 133 because Ragusin was back down. Ragusin might be at 141 this year, to be honest. That dude is
really
big. 33 or 41. He is not going to be at 25. So, but yeah, I think Medley, if you get him, you're going to get somebody who's going to compete hard in every single match. But I mean, the top guy's Hildebrandt. You got to take Hildebrandt if you can get him. He's going to, destroy everyone in the MAC. Obviously, they'll get some out of conference competition too. But the dude plays 4th in the country. He can beat anybody. So, yeah.
And anybody not named Spencer Lee.
Right. Even though Jack Medley did hold Spencer to a decision in 2020, his only decision during the regular season.
That is true. You know, it's funny too. I was thinking like, how many guys are like, damn it, I wish I had known that Lee didn't have any ACLs. I would have attacked more. I would have done something, you know, like, but yeah, I think, you know, it's the tiers, right? I mean, you go, if we're talking these three schools, you go Drew, you go Rayvon, you go Medley.
Yeah. And the thing is, WrestleStat leagues are 100% regular season. And usually if you're making an agreement at the beginning of the season that we're going to carry this over to NCAAs and use that, you know, that's fine. That's obviously rule number one of doing any type of fantasy, whether it's baseball, wrestling, football. Know the rules and know how to exploit those rules. I think Matthew Berry says that every year in his manifesto.
Yep.
So the regular season is what counts. And yes, Spencer Lee is probably going to be at the top of your head to take. But is he going to be on a pitch count? Is he going to be wrestling this year? You know, Drew Hildebrandt and Rayvon Foley are probably going to be wrestling every single match.
Yep.
And with Missouri, I guess supposedly now going to Big 12, who knows what's going to happen with that whole situation? They might be back in the MAC. But I think Drew Hildebrandt's the biggest fish in the pond at 125.
Easily. I mean, he was even with Missouri, you know.
Yeah.
So he's the guy. If you get him, you know. You know, as far as 125 goes across the board, I'd probably put him, you know, in the top 3 or 4 anyway, just in terms of the fantasy implications. So yeah, he's the guy.
I agree with that. I think you can get Rayvon Foley and Drew Hildebrandt somewhere in that 4, 5, 6 round, maybe, because people are going to be thinking, you know, Aruja and Spencer Lee and Pat Glory, and they're going to be trying to go for those big names. But again, schedules matter, and we don't know what the schedules are going to look like.
I think Pat Glory wins the NCAA title this year.
I do too.
Just putting that out there.
Over Lee?
Yeah. I think, dude, Lee is knocked up. Like I just, at some point your body can't do it. And I think Pat Glory coming off of, you know, 0 competition last year, he's going to be fresh. He's going to be hungry. I guess he wrestled in some freestyle tournaments, but he won those too.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I just don't know if I kind of think he's going to sit the season out. I just have this feeling like he's going to sit the season out. I don't know if redshirt, he's still got it available.
Yeah.
I mean, my question with Lee is like, if he needs surgery, why isn't he getting it now or like right after the season? Like if he has 2 torn ACLs, I mean, get it fixed and maybe take a year off, but eventually you're going to have to get surgery or you're going to be wrestling. Like you said, if you're wrestling a guy like Aruja or Glory or one of those guys, like without 2 knees, like, I don't know if that goes the same way as it does against some of the other competition.
Yeah. I don't know what he was doing with, you know, any rehab or any surgery or whatever he needed to do. I'm you know, sure he's got the right people around him helping him make that decision, but yeah, I don't know. I just have really about Pat Glory.
Yeah, but we're sidetracking. We're supposed to be talking about Michigan. So we said Hildebrandt, Foley. I think those are good value picks. So you're going to be able to pick those up late. It's kind of like the Dak Prescott. You know what you're going to get out of him, but people aren't going to be going for him like they will Aaron Rodgers or something.
Right.
Him late, and he's going to contribute very well for you. I'm actually going for Dak Prescott in my fantasy football.
Nice.
Jack Medley, I think, is going to be a plug and play. I think he's one of those guys you keep on a short list, and depending on the matchup, depending on the team, he's going to be a guy who's probably going to be available because you're going to have limited rosters and bench spots. I think given the right situation, he's always a guy you look to see who Michigan is wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a good plug and play, you know, instead of maybe Princeton and Iowa wrestling and you have Spencer Lee, maybe like we were saying, you don't start Pat Glory and you put in, or vice versa, something like that. Moving to 133, we were talking about Dylan Ragusin, flipping between 25, 33. Where did you think he should have went last season?
I thought at the end of the year he should have just stuck at 33.
Yeah, he looked better at 33.
Yeah, he did, and it was literally just talking to their team. They're like, it's getting really tough for him to get down there, and you know, I obviously if he wanted to get down there and try to compete for that spot, more power to him. But yeah, he just did not look as good, and so I think it did hurt the team in the end. But if he goes 33, he's a tough dude. He can compete with anybody. He trains super hard. So I definitely think he's somebody to watch for.
Yeah. I was surprised last season when they said he was going. I think the rumor was he was going 33, and I thought that was a stretch for him last season.
Right.
I thought he was a 41. I think in our draft I had him listed at 41, and then they're like, "No, he's going to be down at 25." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah,
that's what you're saying.
Yeah, he's going to be 33 or 41, I think, this year for sure. But he's good. He's one of those guys who's going to fall probably in some drafts too, just because he's not likely a national title contender this year. I think he could get on the podium. I think he's that good.
Yeah. And he had an explosive start to the season too. I think he pinned Nick Aguilar.
Yeah,
at 25, and that's when all the hype machine started.
Yeah.
And then I have here in the doc Stevan Micic shrug emoji. Who knows?
I would be blown away if he comes back. I mean, the dude's in his early 30s now, right?
Everyone says Dr. Kemmer. You should be saying Dr. Micic.
Yeah, for real. No, but I mean, he's outstanding. Obviously, bummer for him at the Olympics this year, having losing to Takahashi and then having Takahashi go down the next round, right? But if he comes back, he's outstanding. He's a national title contender. He's obviously somebody you'd want to take, but I don't think he's coming back.
Yeah. If he were to come back, do you think he moves up to 41? I know we're jumping across weights, but you think 33?
Yeah, I mean, he's wrestling in the Olympics and World Championships at 57. I don't see him jumping up,
Well, sometimes at Thanksgiving, you want to undo the belt a little bit.
Undoubtedly. That's why I wear suspenders, man. Just,
sweatpants.
Right, yeah.
What year did Micic come to Michigan? Was it 2015?
It was I think it was about 15. Yeah. I remember being at the MSU Open and Micic, Tomasello, and who was the West Virginia guy who made the finals that year?
Moisey.
They were all like freshmen. And so that's like, obviously those two guys are gone and Tomasello long gone.
And Micic was at Northwestern.
Yeah, he redshirted at Northwestern, and then I think he left like immediately after that.
Yeah, so he redshirted at Northwestern in 2015.
Yeah.
Then he has another red shirt. I think. Oh, he had probably an Olympic.
Yeah.
In 16 with Michigan. That's when he came to Michigan. Redshirt freshman in 17, sophomore 18, junior 19, redshirt in 20
for the
Olympic this year.
So
he's a senior, biggest super senior you can use.
Yeah.
In 2022.
Yeah, no, it's well, and it wasn't an Olympic one last year. It was obviously the COVID one or whatever,
Oh, that's right. Yeah. COVID last year, 2020 was the Olympic.
Yeah. This was like Otto Olsen did this. Otto Olsen was at Michigan back in the day for like 8 years. Very similar reasons. Injury red shirt, Olympic red shirt, regular red shirt, and
he's going to be that Steve Buscemi meme. How you do, fellow kids? Just walking down the halls of Michigan.
Otto Olsen was a DJ also. DJ Automatic, I think, was his DJ.
Really?
Oh, that's sweet.
Most people don't know that.
We gotta get a business card.
He comes back. He's a rock star there. At CMU, you've got Drew Martin, I believe, who's going to be back down there.
Yep.
And he's a plug and play guy. He can beat most people in the MAC. But last year was tough for him. He did not wrestle. He looked better 2 years ago than he did last year. So for him, I don't know if it's the weight cut, because I know he used to be up at 141 for a while, and then Dresden Simon basically just kind of took that spot over, right? So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what he ends up looking like this next year.
And it was such a small sample size of a season too. Usually you might take your knocks at the beginning of the season, then you hit a run of streak, maybe 4 or 5 matches. You start getting your legs under you, things like that. They only had 5, 6, maybe 7 matches across, unless you were Oklahoma State or a SoCon team. You had single digit matches for the regular season.
Or Missouri.
Or Missouri, yeah. Missouri went coast to coast, basically, wrestle everybody. But Drew Martin, he was a starter last season, 4-3. He only had 7 fantasy points at the end of the day, which is still good with almost a 500 record. You're still, plus points. The bigger fantasy implicator here was Brock Bergelin, the backup. I think this is the second year where he's been like in the top 20. He was number 15 last season.
Was he really?
Yeah, and at 133, 20 fantasy points he had.
Nice.
Again, small sample size. In 2020, you had guys with 85 triple digits with fantasy points. We're like, oh, he had 20 fantasy points last season. Whoa. But that's one of those cases too, with tournaments coming back. And I know I got my Philly accent, tournaments, Mayor of Easttown kind of thing, Delco. He might be a guy that's another one, just like Jack Medley, depending on the situation, he's a guy that you keep on your short list all the time.
Yeah.
And I mean, one thing that we didn't even bring up at 25, I don't know how these extra matches are going to play. Are they going to keep extra matches, or are they going to go back to just how it used to be like in 2020 and before, where it's just the duel? There's no exhibitions in the beginning or anything like that.
I think everybody liked the extra matches. Did those count then for fantasy purposes?
Yes.
They did? Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as they were against Division I opponents.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I don't know what they'll do with that. I think most coaches liked it. I think most wrestlers liked it because it sucks to just get your ass kicked in practice all the time and not wrestle somebody else, right? So if you're a backup, you want to get some matches in. It's a good thing to have. I always wondered why they didn't have it in the first place, but yeah.
We had it. I wrestled D3. We had it during our duels. We would have kind of exhibitions at the beginning.
Yeah.
I think D2 does that too. So I never understood why D1 didn't do it. But maybe it took a pandemic to get extra matches.
Yeah, and it was good. I think everybody liked it, so hopefully it sticks around.
And going at 133, we did talk about Rayvon Foley. Maybe he'll spend some time up in 33 land. We don't know. We'll have to see what coach determines is best and what Rayvon determines is best. But holding down the fort is going to be Jordan Hamden. Last season, he was a national qualifier going 1-2 at the Big Dance, but he ended the regular season with negative fantasy points, which isn't anything to say last season. Again, you had such a small sample size, a small amount of bouts that you could do. If you lose 2 pins but you win 4 more matches by decision, you're still not you're net zero.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and he's one of those guys. He was MSU's most improved wrestler. I don't know if it was last year or a couple years ago. He's very good. He's very, very good. It sucks when you're just wrestling Big Ten guys and like the Big Ten is the Big Ten, right? Like it's stupid good. But he's somebody I would watch. I think, if you can swoop him up or just pay attention to him on the waiver wire, because he especially early in the season could get some big wins and look pretty good. I don't remember who he beat, but I felt like he had a big win at Big Tens. Maybe, or maybe it was NCAA's, but I feel like he wrestled pretty well and got a win over somebody that he, on paper probably shouldn't have.
Looking at Big Tens, he beat Boo Dryden 9-2. That
was a big match. I think that might be what I'm thinking of.
He also lost to Boo Dryden earlier, I think.
Right.
WrestleStat doesn't go in order, so it says 1 loss 3-2, 1 win by 6-1.
That was fun watching those two wrestle because they're both like 6 feet tall, 133 pounders. Like,
I think Dryden just transferred to Nebraska.
Did he really?
I think so.
Yeah.
I heard that he transferred, and the plan is, from what I hear, he's going to redshirt and he's going to go 25. We'll have to talk to Jason Bryan and see if he has stats on who's the tallest 125 pounder to ever wrestle in NCAAs.
Yeah, that's wild.
That would be did Simmons wrestle 25?
Oh yeah, Simmons wrestled 25.
I would say Nick Simmons is probably the tallest.
He's
one of the tallest dudes.
5'7", 5'8". He's a tall. I mean, he's too tall to wrestle 125. But yeah, he's a good dude.
But yeah, besides that, so Anything else at 133?
Not really, no.
Yeah, I think if I'm looking at this, Ragusan, if Mitrix doesn't come back, Ragusan is the guy out of these three schools that I'm probably putting at the top of my draft order.
Yeah.
But again, like you said, Berglund, Martin, and Hamden, they all have their matchups that they're going to be favored in and to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Now, 141. Again, I haven't started drinking yet. I have it here, but I haven't started drinking. Dresden Simon, you were talking about last season, he was number 19 in fantasy points, number 13 in 2020 in fantasy points. He was definitely the cream of the crop out of this group here, Michigan State, Central Michigan, and Michigan. Drew Matten only going 3-3 during the regular season. Was he injured last year? Not 2021, 2020.
Matten?
Yeah.
No, he spent a lot of time just trying to get down to 133.
Oh, okay.
He started the year at 141. I think he got down to 133 like, late January, early February, somewhere in that range. And then he eventually took over that spot and wrestled in at max and everything. But yeah, it took him a while to get down there.
Yeah. And then at 41, you have Matt Santos and Jaden Enriquez from Michigan State. Nothing against those guys, but they're basically like 500 wrestlers now of their career, which, again, I got to preface this. I'm a fat kid in my basement talking about fantasy wrestling. So by me saying you're a 500 wrestler, don't take it as disrespect.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a numbers thing. That's just what the numbers say. So
exactly, and you're in the Big Ten. So
yeah, I legit wrestled at the EMU Open, the backup for MSU. 2010, and he kicked my ass. So yeah, that's kind of how this works. That's the problem, Yeah. But yeah, no, it's those guys are great, and but you're not really setting your lineups based on them. If it's a plug and play thing, and they're wrestling, no disrespect, but Maryland, or they're wrestling somebody else that you think you can get some points from, sure, throw them in there. But yeah, otherwise we're really just talking, I mean, the guys not Drew. Why am I blanking on his name? Not Drew,
Matt.
No, Dresden Simon. I mean, he's the
Dresden. Yeah.
In these three schools, who you go with at 141. You're going to have Matt and either Cole or Drew at 141 probably this next year. Drew might be done though. I don't know if Drew's coming back.
Really, I know the rumor mill back when after NCAAs was Michigan's in the market, the transfer portal, because apparently that's now like soccer transfer market. They were in shopping for a 141 pounder. There was speculation that there was going to be like Woods was going to be coming because he didn't know what the status of Sanford was, and everything. Do you think they're still in that mindset, or
I
don't know who's out there. I don't have access.
I think they thought they had Woods, and I think they thought they had who's the 165 Stanford guy, just won a national title.
Griffith.
Yeah, I think they thought they had both of them, and then they hired the new guy. But I do like the Mattins. I think they're good. Again, whether it's Cole or whether it's Drew or whoever ends up in that spot for Michigan there, you're going to get something. But not on the level of Dresden Simon, although Cole does have a win over Dresden Simon from 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. Well, Drew was a 2-time round of 16 wrestler. His first 2 years, he was round of 16. He had over 20 wins each of those seasons. And then come 2020, when he redshirted, at least that's what's saying on WrestleStat here, he was basically 500. He was 6-5 against D1 competition. Last year he was 5-8, but again, that's all Big Ten that you're wrestling and everything. He has the potential to be a fantasy superstar. It's just like you said, is he coming back? And then
I know he's graduated. Like I know he's but obviously you can come back and you still have eligibility to take more classes. I think he's a pre-med guy or something like that anyway. So he's far from being done with school. But but yeah, I mean we'll see what they end up doing at 141. I wouldn't be surprised. Again, if Ragusan jumps into that spot too. But we'll see.
Yeah. And I mean, if we're looking at 141, talking about Dresden Simon, he's definitely a top 15 guy, just wrestler wise in the nation. It's just, 41 is pretty compact. We don't know what Yanni's going to do. I think he's going 149. You have Alan Hart, who's going to be returning, Dom Demas, Nick Lee, if he's returning, he might go 49 too. Who knows? Ian Parker's coming back. Sammy Alvarez, because he can't make 33 anymore. We saw that whole thing. Woods is coming back. I mean, 41 is very deep. But again, fantasy is a regular season game.
Yep.
Not so much thinking about postseason.
Well, and that's the thing too. If we're talking regular season, Dresden Simon is a 2-time MAC champion and one MAC's outstanding wrestler 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Like, the guy is going to beat up on the dudes in the MAC. And then, thank God that, Missouri is leaving the conference, because not that dude from Catholic Central, Josh Edmonds, I believe it is, coming in, and that guy's an absolute hammer. He's going to be good immediately. I mean, he was good immediately last year. Mm-hmm. But, I think Dresden Simon's going to be the guy there for sure. And then, you see what you monitor what the Michigan and Michigan State guys are doing, whoever they end up getting in those spots. But
right. And Dresden Simon both years had over 40% bonus rate in his D1 matches for the season. So we always say you want to try to shoot for over 50% of your matches being like that. That's a go-to. Like if you're between two people, you're looking at resumes and they're about the same, look at the bonus rate. go with the higher bonus rate, obviously.
He's a wildly strong kid.
Yeah. 149. Now we start getting into some fun. So with Michigan State, Peyton Omania, Greco guy, right? I think that's his background. Kanan Storr from Michigan. They wrestled each other, had a barn burner of a match. I think that was the last match of the season too. And then Central Michigan, the records may not say it, but these were two very solid guys. Corbin Munson and Mason Brees as a backup too has been a very good fantasy wrestler for the past couple of years.
Mason Brees is outstanding. I'm a Corbin Munson fan in general, but I don't know that he gets this spot next year. I think Brees, like everything I've seen from him, is going to just continue to improve. He's going to take that spot from Munson, who has done great. He's gotten into the spot. He's a really good athlete, and they he didn't wrestle a ton before high school, so like they felt like he's got a lot of upside. Mm-hmm. I just don't. I think he's kind of plateaued. I think he's gotten to where he's going to be able to get, and I think Brees is far from reaching his full potential. So, Brees is going to be good, but yeah, I mean, otherwise you're going, and Omania overrated. I don't know what the numbers say stats wise for fantasy, but he's not going to be on any of my teams. The dude loses a lot of matches.
What did he do to you last season?
I expected so much. I wanted him to be so good. I love the fact that he's out there throwing headlocks and doing awesome stuff. Mm-hmm. But he loses a lot of matches. I would be surprised if you told me he had over 500 record last year.
Yeah, he was 3-4 during the regular season, 1-4 in the postseason with Big Ten and NCAAs combined. I mean, it's one of those things where he was in every match, but that lefty headlock can only do so much damage, only so many times.
And everybody knows it's coming, So I don't have as much confidence in him as I do, Kanan Storr. He's not going to get you crazy bonus points all the time, but he's going to win more matches than he loses. Mm-hmm. And I do like the upside of Mason Brees, or if Munson has the spot too, I like him in the MAC. Whoever's at 149 for Central Michigan, I would take over Omania.
Yeah, and Storr is a solid option. He's one of those guys who's a safe, not to say a safe play, but what you're getting out of Kanan Storr. He's a solid wrestler, like you said. He's going to be in every match. He was 9-6 last season. The only problem last season with him was he was a 0% bonus rate, all decisions, which, I mean, wins are good. You'd rather have wins than losses, right? Yeah. But you want to see a major in there. You want to see a pin every so often. He had about a quarter of his matches in 2020 were by bonus. So
Yeah.
at least that was something. We were talking about Kanan Storr and Omania in that last match. Kanan Storr rallied back. He was down. What do I have in my notes here? He was down 12-1 at one point and stormed back. He ended up losing, but he lost 15-8, which doesn't, still kept it to a decision. But to storm back like that, that's a lot of points to try to make up.
He's enormously talented, and you got to consider too. I think last year was the first year he was up at 149. He was 41 the year before that, right?
I think so. Yeah.
So who knows? I mean, maybe he was just adjusting to the weight. He does kind of have a thin frame. Doesn't look like he puts the pounds on easily. So
that was the second year at 49.
It was the second year. Okay.
2020 he was, but he what was I going to say about him? He came out of his Olympic.
That's right. That's what it was. He came out of the Olympic year at 49. I remember now. Yeah.
Yeah. He pulled a Kolodzik where he came out to help the team. He wanted to wrestle, and then NCAA is like, we're not going to wrestle this year. We're not going to tournament. So, but at least he had some eligibility left where he could come back at least. So out of this, I think Kanan Storr is a good safe play. He's got name brand recognition. So I think he's not going to be one of the first drafted guys at 149, but I don't think he's going to last to the very end. I think he's going to be somewhere in the middle. So plan accordingly. How you, depending on what 49 pounder you get, if he's going to be an everyday starter kind of guy, or if you need that kind of backup because you don't know if he's going to be wrestling or not. I think Kanan Storr is a great option to have on the bench.
I think so too. I think he's one of the top half guys in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
He'll win more of his matches than he loses for sure.
I think he has a close match. His first match with Sasso was not close, but then I think he got the gap closer their second time. And then Brees, like we're saying, has massive upside. I think he's a late round steal kind of guy. Or maybe you're playing mind games and you're saying, Manya, you're not going to touch him, and you're actually going to draft him in all your things. You're just on one of those Jedi mind tricks kind of.
Hey, I'm letting him go. Anybody want Manya? I won't even pick him up off of waivers. So I'm good.
I'll give you people to take him from.
Yes.
157 here. I know we're kind of just blowing through, so stop me if there's anything additional you want to add. At Michigan State, you got Chase Saldate, Nathan. I'm going to butcher this. Atienza.
Yeah.
Atienza. There we go.
His older brother wrestled at Central Michigan. Jordan Atienza.
What was that?
Jordan Atienza wrestled at Central Michigan.
Oh, okay. Johnny Lovett, who I called Lyle Lovett during the regular season a couple times. Tracy Hubbard for Central Michigan. And then Michigan, Will Luwan. And I think the joke with Will Luwan last season was he's saving all of his bonus wins for the postseason. Like that, that's what he was trying to do, because he would never bonus during the regular season.
He's the most frustrating. Like, obviously the dude has got incredible talent and is outrageous and can win those close matches and seems to have ice in his veins and is fine doing it. But the dude was a cadet world champion. Like, you kind of want him to attack. Tommy and I say it all the time. Like, if you're the better wrestler, don't you want to wrestle more, right? Like, don't you want to have more action and create more movement and try and create some of these situations? And it's like, that's my mindset, at least. And I don't see why he doesn't do that, right? Johnny Lovett was one match away from being an All-American.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? It was he lost to the Oklahoma State guy, Sheets, Wyatt Sheets, and then Sheets was going to wrestle the Penn State dude, Brady Berge, who had to drop out because of concussion.
Yeah,
and then he was an All-American. So Lovett is outstanding. I think, honestly, Lovett could be the best out of all three. Well, no, Saldate's excellent too. But if I'm talking, conferences and everything like that, like Johnny Lovett is going to destroy the MAC this year. He's only going to get better. He won the MSU Open 2 years ago in the freshman sophomore division. So, like, the guy's good. He's legitimately outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think you're going to get more bonus points wins with him than you are some of those other guys. But Saldate's I mean, his ceiling is obviously up there.
Yeah. So Donnie was 4-3 during the regular season as a true freshman. 3 of those wins being by bonus, and I'm trying to see what kind of bonus, because that is the question.
He was uber disappointing for me at the NCAA's because I thought he was going to make some noise, and he kind of ducked out early and didn't have the best NCAA, but I think he comes back strong this year.
It was such a weird year last year. You know, I literally remember sitting there and talking about, like, is Minnesota in trouble? Like, are they going to fire Eggum? Like, what's going on with Minnesota? And then they had an awesome tournament. What, they placed like 4th or something like that, like, or 3rd. They were
up there.
Yeah, like, they were outstanding. Everybody was All-American. You know, like, it was, and then obviously Gable, right? Like, Gable doing what he does. So I don't know what it's going to be. Tough to look at last season and really draw too many conclusions. I just know, like, Saldate, like, he was a blue chip recruit. He's one of those guys who's like, I would probably put him at the top of the list of these 3 guys. I'd go him, Lovett, Will Lewan, which is crazy, but like you said, there's just no bonus point opportunities there. Yeah, and 157 in the Big Ten is not getting any easier. So,
yeah,
Minnesota tied for 7th.
7th, okay.
Yeah,
but that still seems better than, like, literally we were wondering if they're going to fire the coach. And
yeah, I'll say, you know, out of those 3, like, Will Lewan is fantasy poison. Like, I wouldn't draft him unless it was like the late round pick.
Well, then the crazy thing too, I think he's the most talented of these 3.
Oh yeah, I agree.
He just, you know, for fantasy purposes, like, what are you going to do?
Every match is 1-0, 2-1. Like, he doesn't open it up, even when he's clearly better than the other guy. It's just, like you said, it drives me crazy too watching him wrestle. I'm like, dude, you're better than this. Like, you're wrestling like some random dude from some school, and it's like 2-0. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you should be able to tech this guy in 2 minutes. Instead, you're like, you know, getting 1 point escape and 1 riding time point and winning 2-0. And I'm like, this is ridiculous.
The Ohio State duel last year, where it went to the last match, and it was Will Lewan versus Elijah Cleary, and one of those 2 is clearly better than the other, and it went to like triple overtime or something.
Yeah.
It was like, come on, man. Like, don't do this to me.
You didn't want the drama, the suspense of it?
No, I don't like that. I like flow. I still want to see in my teams that
I mean, especially like with how good he is in scrambles. Like, if you're that good in scrambles, then get in more scramble positions.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Roll around with the dude, you know, like you know, you saw Sasso, what he was able to do. Like, start scrambling and scoring off those scrambles. If you're that good if your hips are that good, then use that. You know, get in those scrambles and make a guy make a mistake and capitalize.
That's if he flips that switch and does it, then I'll eat every one of these words. But right now, I'm going probably Saldate actually at the highest, just because I think his ceiling is for fantasy is the best. Then Lovett because of the conference, and again, 1 match away from being an All-American. He's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lewan.
Yeah, he unfortunately ran into a Sheets that was on a mission from God. It seems like he was on the operating table and he comes back to AA.
He legitimately had like blown out everything in his knee.
Yeah,
like, he should not have been out there, but you know what? He did, and more power to him, man. Wyatt Sheets, just he's ready to roll.
You've been listening to the Olympics. You hear John Smith on the broadcasting. Don't you want to get out and wrestle just listening to him commentate these Olympics?
Oh yeah, the best. Tommy tweeted this thing that I missed it when John had said it, but apparently he was like, sometimes you just want to look at these refs and be like, is this your first time? You know. Can you imagine just that dry wit, just like ripping your heart out and like eating it like that? Like, that
he has so many good quotes during that. Even Jordan Burroughs too. Jim Nance, Tony Romo, and Jordan Burroughs, John Smith are like right there. They're
John Smith refs and whistles and just wants wrestling in action the whole time. Yeah,
I think it was last night. It wasn't during an American match. John Smith, the ref blew a whistle, for no reason, which happens a lot. And John Smith will let you know that that happens a lot.
Mhm.
And he goes, "Why are they blowing the what?" He goes, "Sometimes I think these refs get bored, so they just blow the whistle, so they like still think that they're like still part of this." I was dying.
just pure hatred. Yeah. But what are you gonna do? You gonna tell that guy no? Like I'm not gonna wrestle this year. My knee hurts. Like, no, you're just gonna do it.
Kyle Crutchmer sent something like, "This is how he sounds in the room. This is why there's so many great Oklahomas." I wanted to respond to that like, yeah, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot more expletives in the room than what we're hearing too.
But yeah, the dude is charisma. He's like, and you wouldn't think of that looking at him, right? But like his charisma and his presence and leadership is like that's why they're good. That's why they got number one recruiting class 2 years ago, whatever, or 1 year ago with Master Giovanni and AJ Ferrari and the 174, whatever that guy. But yeah, they're gonna be good.
Yeah, and then Jordan Burroughs, I think, is awesome commentating too. He's scared money don't make money, you know.
Yeah. Sounds like Billy D. Williams out there, man. Just smooth and calm, and he knows what he's doing. He's fine.
Yep. It's better than the British, a little bit better than the British announcers that were on the other mats.
Yeah, those are the worst. Those guys love refs.
Yeah. All right, so we're getting past the halfway mark. I'm going to open up my beer for you because you're part of the Blood Round. I have a Blood Orange Wachusett.
Nice.
It's a brewery outside or in the town where my wife grew up in Westminster, Massachusetts. So I always get a pack or 7 when I go up there. They have like a whole bunch of fruity beers, like blueberries are a big one, blood orange. They have a summer ale, stuff like that. So
nice.
Do that. Thank you for coming on. So that's my little homage to you guys.
Well, and like I said before we started recording, I had a long night last night, so I've been drinking lots of water today. That's been my beverage.
Totally okay.
Yeah.
That plus sleep deprivation, having to watch the Olympics. I mean, it's a bad cocktail.
Right. Oh, one other thing. Tracy Hubbard. I did like a pull-up challenge with some of the CMU guys last summer or sometime. I don't remember when. Last winter maybe. Mm-hmm. And Tracy Hubbard one day did like 400 pull-ups just in one day, and it was like, what? How do you do that? But yeah, he's a freak.
Does he have forearms like Popeye?
He's a super freak, man. He's another one of those dudes who didn't start wrestling until he was a sophomore in high school and ended up winning like a state championship and then went to Central Michigan and wrestled.
That seems to be not an ongoing thing because obviously there's a lot of D1 wrestlers who have been going since before middle school. They've been wrestling, you know. But look at it, like Andrew Sparks too. I think he just started in high school, and look at him. I mean, he's got the gas tank better than I'm not going to say better than David Taylor. Please don't roast me for saying that. But I mean, it's almost like the third period. He's still going as fast as how he was in the first period.
Yeah.
And you see that a lot from a lot of wrestlers coming up. They have like a gymnastics background, and then they get in the wrestling late, or they somehow get in the wrestling late just in the high school or late middle school, something like that. So not a lot of burnout.
Jake Herbert always had a big thing where, you know, you can teach an athlete how to shoot a double leg, but you can't, you know, teach a non-athlete how to be an athlete, you know?
Yeah. That's true.
If you can get them moving and get the kinetic movement and the muscle memory and stuff, you can work on the rest of it.
Yeah. And keep them coming back in through the door, I think is another thing, right? You said,
yeah.
As long as they keep coming back.
Exactly.
So 165, now we're starting to get into some really interesting weights, the top half of these rosters. And this is where Michigan starts to get fun in speculating. The bottom half, you definitely know. There's a few in the top that are people coming back. How are they going to settle each other in where they're going to land within the roster? At 65, I think Caleb Fish at Michigan State, I think he could be anywhere from 65 or 74. I don't know if he's going to be at 57 too, but I think 65 or 74 is a landing spot for him. He was 6-1 last year as a true freshman. He had 22 fantasy points. And I think that did rank him. I think I made an error in the 65. I think he wrestled 57 some of the time too last year. I think he should have been in the top 20 with that. But him and Jake Tucker was 3-4 as a starter. I don't know. Caleb Fish is, I think, gonna get a starting spot. It's just, is he at 65 or is he at 74?
Yeah, I would assume. Do you have any information? Is Jake coming back?
I think Jake is coming back. Let me see.
Because he's one of those guys who's always right there, like on the verge of being a top 25 guy. And, a couple times he'd be ranked 17th, 18th, or whatever.
Mhm.
I do like Tucker. If he gets the spot, like I think he's one of those guys who's going to go out there and compete, try and get some wins. Again, the records for last year being in the Big Ten, it's tough.
Mhm.
He's better than the 3-4 record or whatever he had.
Yeah, he had a record of, in 2020, 27-9 with a 33% bonus rate.
Okay,
So,
yeah,
solid.
yeah. He's outstanding. I mean, he really is, and he's going to try and put points on the board. But either one of those guys at 165, whoever you get, is going to be pretty solid.
And then let me see. I think Todd's got some TV going there. Let me see. So Central Michigan, then you got Tracy Hubbard, 5-0 last season as a backup. He was tied for 17th in fantasy points. And then Ryan Ringler also listed. He was 1-2 last year against D1 competition. Two guys you think are going to be fighting it out?
No, I think Alex Kramer is going to get the spot.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, he was there at 165 last year. Transferred from Old Dominion when Old Dominion shut down.
Mm-hmm.
He blew out his knee. He qualified for the NCAAs, or he got an at-large or something like that, and then he just tore his ACL, tore something up pretty bad.
Yeah.
So he's healthy and he's back. I think he's going to be the guy for CMU at 165.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's just the best option there.
Yeah, but that was my concern though. I didn't know the health.
Yeah.
If I agree with you, if he's back healthy 100%, I think the starting spot is his. I don't know if he's going to be ready in time. That's just my kind of inkling. I don't know.
I'm going to the CMU golf outing on the September 19th. So I'll try to report back, give people some details.
Okay.
Before the draft, hopefully. Set your draft for the 20th.
Yeah. Specifically for Alex Kramer.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I love golf outings. I went to the Princeton golf outing and I had a blast.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Got to drink with alumni and I was with the name escapes me, but he's the coach of the Princeton high school team. He was in my grouping and everything.
Nice.
We got par. We were good. Winners cheated.
Princeton and golf outings. My buddy Marty, who wrestled at Princeton, he's coming with me to the CMU one in a couple months too.
Nice.
So yeah, should be a good time.
Nice. Now, how do you usually play? Are you a wrestler golfing or are you a golfer that?
I suck. I don't even have. Honestly, I have to figure out what I'm going to do for the 19th. I have to get some clubs somewhere. My goal when I golf is to get one par. If I get one par, I'm happy, right? So I really buckle down on those par threes to see what I can figure out. And I want one drive that just looks nice, right? Just great, flies through the air. If I do those two things, it's
set up the phone, go slow-mo, watch it just
fly through the air, just majestically. Like that's a good day for me.
Nice. I think you might be able to buy them on Amazon. I think they make balls that will not slice or hook.
Ooh.
So that now they have to be set up in a certain way, which if you're
that
playing
sounds like
scramble, perfect.
I could definitely screw that up.
Somehow goes way left.
Yeah.
But cool. Have fun at that. I love those golf outings because I'm like in Seinfeld. I'll give tips. I'll give the charity, but I kind of want to be seen doing it. Like the pizzeria, like putting the tip jar. Like I want them to see that I'm putting it in. It's time that I come in. Oh, it's me. It's Anthony.
That's awesome.
But so Central Michigan, Alex Kramer, if he's healthy, I think we all agree he's the guy to go. If not, I think it's going to be a little bit of a roster battle, which in a new season that a regular season, not like a COVID season that we had, if it roster battles can be good, they can be bad. Good because they're going to go to every tournament and they're both going to be entered. So you can kind of judge it that way. But bad because during dual meets, they might split time.
Yeah.
That's the only downside. So, pick carefully. And then Michigan, we were talking about the amines earlier. Chamomine, not to be confused with chamomile, like the tea. 5-1 regular season. He only had one bonus win by major, but he beat Jacob Tucker during the season and Joe Lee. I don't know what your stance is on Joe Lee.
Well, and that was his only loss too.
Yeah. Well, no, Joe Lee lost to Ethan Smith too.
No. I mean, Camomine's loss was to Joe Lee, and then he ended up beating him, I think, at Big Tens or NCAAs, one of those two.
Yes, you're right. I'm sorry. And then he lost a close one during the regular season, I think, to Ethan Smith.
Did he?
I think so.
Maybe he did.
Yeah, I think his one loss was to Smith.
Was it? Okay, never mind. I'm an idiot. I was thinking of the wrong thing.
Let me see.
But he All-American, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, I mean, he showed out at NCAAs.
Yeah, he really wrestled well, and he's he's another one of those guys where he constantly puts in the time and energy and effort, and obviously he's got some solid family to wrestle around with pretty consistently. So I know those guys were getting workouts in when Michigan's room was shut down, right? Like those guys were just in their basement training. So
they had that broom closet with the Dolomer mat or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, he's going to be outstanding. I mean, he's the top pick of these three schools for sure there. And then I'd say him, Alex Kramer, assuming he's healthy, and then you go with whatever you have left.
Yeah. Chamomine last year had a sub 20 bonus rate, but the year before when he redshirted, he was 11-5 against D1 competition, a 35% bonus rate. So he's right there. Like I said, the COVID year, you have to take every data point that you can, but that one is a little bit more salt with the margarita than maybe others, because again, it's short. If you wrestle 3 times and you win one by bonus, you have a 33% bonus rate. In a normal season, you're wrestling 20 times almost, and the bonus rate kind of plays out a little bit to actually what it is.
And the level of competition is going to be different across the board, right?
Yeah.
The Big Ten is very tough at 165 and will continue to be, but you're not going to be wrestling just the Big Ten next year. You're going to get some of those other matches. You're going to, when you're a freshman All-American and you get more chances to beat up on less talented wrestlers, but yeah, right now you're going to get, the combination of the most talented guy of these three schools, and, definitely going to have the most opportunity to bonus point. So,
and it's going to depend on where Shane Griffith goes and where Mekhi Lewis goes. I know there's rumors on everybody who's jumping up to 74. Obviously Hayden Hidley decided, forget 65. I'm going straight to 74 from 157. Anyway, who knows what Deacon does? Deacon's coming back. But is he going to stay at 57? Is he going to go up to 65? 65 could clear out a little bit. And I mean, if I'm looking at WrestleStat rankings right now at 165, you got Marinelli, Wick, Keegan O'Toole, and then Travis Whitlake, Valencia, Wenzel, Zach Hartman. I mean, Camomine's right there.
Oh yeah, he's right there. And again, he's only going to get better. I don't expect you're going to get what you're going to get from Alex Marinelli, but he's not all of a sudden going to come back and be.
And Carshall, don't forget Carshall.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Damn it. Yeah.
Yeah, Carshall comes back, and I assume he's going 65. But
I so too.
What's funny with them, again, we're going off tangent. Ethan Smith wasn't even supposed to wrestle last year, and he ends up All-American, being one of the best 65-pounders.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. That's depth in the room.
That was the worst though. When Anthony Valencia was crushing him, and then he hurt his hamstring or whatever, and all of a sudden it was damn it, is he really gonna not All-American again? But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But Cam is legit. He's really, really outstanding. I think he's a high end pick at 165 here.
Yeah, and I think he's more of the freshman kind of Camomine than the last year Camomine in terms of win percentage and bonus rate too.
Yes.
So
yeah.
I definitely think he's especially if you're in a dynasty league, he's definitely a guy because he's still got soft freshman eligibility.
Think about this too. Remember when Miles Amin was a freshman, was an All-American, and people were like, "Oh wow, like that's pretty impressive." Like, he wrestled pretty hard all year, and then the next year he came back and he was immediately like the fourth best guy behind like, Bo Jordan, Mark Hall, and then there was somebody else.
Valencia?
Yes. And then, but like my point is, I think you can get a jump like that from Cam. I think you can get a guy who all of a sudden comes back. He's confident. He was an All-American, and now he's going to come in and just be ready to attack and go.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. And I was really pissed when I think Todd, you got him in our Mad Scouts dynasty.
I did. Yes.
Very pissed off that you got him. I didn't speak to you for a little bit. 174, moving up. Michigan State, we got Nate Jimenez, 1-2 last season, 2 losses by major, 1 from Labriola. So, I mean, I guess you can let that slide a little bit. Jake Lull for Central Michigan, I have listed. And then for Michigan, I put Logan Massa. I don't know if you have any insight on that. This stretch of guys, I don't know what to make of it. I got like the Stevanovic shrug emoji. I'm still not sure.
I would be surprised if he came back, honestly. My initial thought around that was he and his significant other just had a baby, and he probably wants to get paid and start like competing in some of these tournaments and get some endorsements and things like that. But then all of a sudden the name, image, likeness stuff came about. But I still think he's gonna be able to make more money competing for Cliff Keen Regional Training Center and getting, doing more camps and doing more things like that. So that would be my guess for a guy like that. He probably wants to start really focusing on freestyle and getting to that next level.
Yeah. And he looked like he came for a while, like his freshman year, his redshirt freshman year, he placed third. That was the year where he beat Isaac Jordan like 2-3 times. He just looked unstoppable.
Beat Marinelli at NCAAs too.
Yeah. And was that when he didn't.
That was in Big Tens the next year or the year after that or something like that.
Was that the flex?
Yeah, that was the flex one in Michigan at Michigan State. But he he took third and then struggled to get on the podium again after that. I mean, he obviously was, making 165 got to be pretty tough for him. Yeah, he was dealing with some injuries.
And then he goes up to 174 last season, places 5th. He looked like the Logan Massa of his redshirt freshman year. His bonus rate was 42%. He was 13-5. He ended up losing to Srirachi in their duel. That was a crazy one. That was in tiebreak too, I think.
Yeah.
That was the roll through that didn't quite get there.
The worst decision. I was screaming at my TV. It was like a Sunday or something like that. I remember it was like a day duel, and I was like just losing my mind. They could have had it. They absolutely could have had it, and they didn't.
And who knows how everything would have played, how that would have done with seeding, and could have changed the trajectory of everything. And we'll start to hurry up because we're getting towards 9:18 on the East Coast on a Thursday before some Olympic wrestling. So
there we go.
But Max Mailer also, he was 2-2 last season. I think he can jump into the lineup. I know I've heard good things about him in the room and everything, but
he looked good last year for true freshman. Like, I know he took his lumps because it's the Big Ten, but I was impressed with how he wrestled, and I like his frame, man. He's really long.
I honestly think the guy is Jaden Bullock. Jaden's, if he can get that spot, he's the best option they have there. I mean, he bumped up and wrestled 184 a lot last year for them, being legit undersized. And he was wrestling, Aaron Brooks, and like that was a tough match for Brooks to win.
Yeah.
And so, like, you get Jaden Bullock at his actual weight, who's made like significant gains since being in that room and wrestling. I mean, think about it. We just named Miles Amin, Logan Massa, Alex Dieringer, Dominic Abinator. Like, he had nothing but outstanding training partners the whole time. Yeah. And you get a guy like that who's an athlete, wants to learn and wants to take on, more challenges. He was good. I'm very excited to see what he's able to do. I think he's a guy that, will probably fall in the draft just because I think people are sleeping on him, and I'm not. I'm going to take him.
Yeah. And so I have Miles Amin listed at 84. Obviously, he wrestled 97. Todd's having some trouble with the remote there. And WrestleStat has him at 84. Just like last year, we were kind of debating whether he goes 84, 97, things like that. You don't think he comes back? You think he's...
I don't think he comes back. Plus, I know they've got Pat Bruckey, who's planning on going 84.
Really?
Yeah, Pat Bruckey's going 184.
Okay.
So I've seen pictures of him. He's slimmed down. He's, still just as ripped as
Still has the mustache though, right?
I hope so. God,
yeah.
I hope that was awesome. But yeah, I mean, the dude's built like an action hero. He's a super freak. And I think with his strength and his speed and everything like that, again, he's wrestling with those same guys in that room. He's going to be outstanding. He's going to be really, really good at 184.
That's going to make 84 just a meat grind. I mean, it was already a crazy weight to begin with, but that's going to add another power wrestler to Aaron Brooks, Trent Hidlay, Hunter Bolin, Parker Keckheisen, Louis Dupre. I don't know if Dakota Gear is coming back, but Britt Wilson will be there. I don't know if Venz is coming back either. Yeah, he is. I think all the Nebraska guys are coming back. John Poznansky. Just, oh my God, that's going to be absolutely crazy.
It is. What's really cool is like, and there's a lot of depth everywhere, right? But it's. I used to get bored watching the 74 and 84, like basically 65 to like 97. I used to get bored watching, and now these guys are just like, because they would just tie up and squeeze, But now these guys they're taking low singles. They're doing all this like dynamic stuff. They're super ducking. Like it's so exciting to watch these guys and the way they compete now, versus 20 years ago or whatever. But it's going to be sweet. I think that he's outstanding. I mean, if you can get Bruckey, again, he might be one of those guys that people just kind of forget about and don't think about during the draft.
Yeah.
But he wants to score points. He wants to destroy everybody. And he was hurt his last year at Princeton. People kind of forget about that.
Yeah.
He was one of the top 2 or 3 guys, and then all of a sudden it looked like maybe he not All-American, but he was really hurt. So he's going to be healthy. He's going to be down and trim and fit and ready to go. I think he's going to be outstanding.
I think so too. And I think Joe Dubuque did say that on an interview with Earl when he was with the open mat. I think the plan was before that whole announcement that COVID and the Ivy Leagues weren't going to be in there. I think the plan was that they were going to gray shirt him anyway, just to, kind of get healthy. I think he had, a hip thing or something like that. I think is
he was knocked around.
Yeah. And so Pat Bruckey, 84, very interesting. That makes me wonder about where to put them in draft order because when I do my rankings before drafts, I always look at like, who do I think are title contenders, who do I think are AA contenders, and then who are going to be regular season heroes kind of thing. And Bruckey at 84, that's going to stir the pot a little bit.
He's really good. Dark horse national title contender, maybe. I don't know. He's outstanding. If he's healthy and he's looking good and he can keep pace with some of those smaller guys, then yeah.
And like you were saying about the heavyweights being boring, I think Jordan Burroughs said something about that the other night on the broadcast. He was saying, if any weight is used to not having people in the stands, it's going to be like heavyweights. But these heavyweights nowadays are what people come to watch.
Right.
Usually it was when you go to the concession stand when the heavyweights come out or something like that. Now it's the main attraction.
They're so good across the board. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I can tell you what, like 2 years ago, I watched Pat Brucky walk off the mat at 197, and he was a frigging tank. So the thought of him at 184 is crazy.
He's a freak, dude. He's enormous. But yeah,
He's smart. He's going for engineering too, I think, right?
I don't know. He's going to be
Grad school
in the United States. I don't know what he's he can do whatever the hell he wants. Awesome mustache, giant biceps, just an animal.
You just see him in a job meeting, you're like, you're hired.
Yeah, dude. Like, what do you want?
No interview.
So a real quick question for you, Kev. With Brucky going to 84, what does Jelani Embry do? Is he out, or does he go up, or?
I don't care, honestly. Like, the dude has not done, like, he's so, like, we're talking about Patrick Brucky and how he looks, and he's a freak, right? Jelani Embry looks like he should be the best wrestler on the planet. He just doesn't wrestle that way, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think he's one of those guys who, you know, we talked about some of the guys in the room a minute ago, right? And I think he's getting beat up in that room, and he's lost a lot of confidence. And, you know, it's tough to get that back, especially when you don't really wrestle that often, you know?
Yeah.
He doesn't compete much. I don't think he gets a spot. I think, you know, if we're talking 197, not to jump, you know, too fast away, I think you're going to get a guy like, you know, Gage Garcia might be able to jump in there.
Well, he transferred.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, he did?
Didn't he transfer to Lehigh?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, so he's definitely not going to be the starter at 197.
Plot
I don't
twist.
know, man. Bobby Strigow, you know, you got there's a couple other guys. I would be shocked if Jelani Embry is the starter there for the whole season.
I've wanted to support Jelani Embry so much. I always thought he was going to be kind of a sneak play every year, kind of like, you know, that backup running back. You're like, oh, I know he's going to break out. I know he's going to jump into RB1 at some point, and he never does.
Yeah.
I kind of feel that way with Embry, whether he's at 84 or he goes up to 97. Maybe 97 would be better for him because he has had injuries in the past, so maybe not having to cut the weight. And I don't know. I wish all the best for him.
I do too. And you know what? It could still happen. The guy's outstanding, but you know, I don't think it's the athleticism or talent. I think it's between his ears that's keeping him from getting where he could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Brucky at 84 definitely is the pick out of these three schools. Ben Cushman, 4-2 regular season last year for Central Michigan. Lane Malcheski, did I say that right?
Yeah. He's actually outstanding. He had hurt his knee, I think, too. But he's definitely someone to watch, and you know, if you can swoop him up real late in the draft, or you can pick him up on waivers, he's going to win a lot of matches.
Yeah, he went 6-1 during the regular season. He had 2 pins. He beat Rocky Jordan, which to some people that's good. To some others, maybe not so much. And then he beat Owen Webster also, but lost to Max Lyon. Max had a good season last year too.
Mm-hmm.
But out of those 3 schools, I think if Brucky's going down, absolutely Brucky's the top of those 3, no doubt. If Miles doesn't come back, then I think it's pretty much even across the board, leaning towards Jaden Bullock or maybe somebody else stepping into that role. Yeah. Otherwise, it's pretty even across the board.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much exactly right. But he's the best option if you get Brucky there. But yeah, Lane Malcheski, he's outstanding too. I think you really can't go wrong if he's your go-to guy there. Like, he's obviously the best option, but he'll be fine. He'll get some bonus point wins.
Yeah. And so moving up to 97, then we were talking. So Pat Brucky, I had at 97. Obviously, we're saying he's probably going to go 84. Who does that go 97? We were touching on it. Maybe Strigow.
Maybe somebody. Strigow. Yeah, I mean, they're going to have some options. You know, it's not going to be. It's not great. Embry, we talked about, but you know, you're kind of avoiding Michigan at 197.
Yeah, and Central Michigan's going to have Aaron Bolo, I think, right there. at 97.
He's
2-1. He is good. I remember him in 2020. He had a decent what was he? He was 14-7 against D1 competition in 2020.
He's really long, really lanky, loves cradles, loves scrambling around and getting stuff going and catching people. So I think he's going to have a lot of bonus points, especially, getting to be in the lineup full time finally, because he was always behind, why am I blanking on his name? Patrick or Landon Pelham.
Yeah. And then Michigan State, Cam Caffey moved up from 84. I didn't think it was a bad move. I thought that was good for the team and for him especially. I didn't think it was a bad weight cut for him or anything, but I remember him breaking that kind of on Bloodround that he was going to be moving up. 5-2 during the regular season, only one bonus win. He ran into Schultz, he ran into Amin. He just hit those good guys in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the thing. I think Amin likely not coming back. Schultz is, but I think those are both 1-point losses. It was really close. And Schultz is enormous. So I'm sure Cam put on some more weight. I'm sure he's still working out and lifting and getting bigger to be a more full size 197. And I think he learned a lot from just what the difference in weight is going to meant for him and how his style needs to adjust. I have nothing but confidence in Cam Caffey. He's awesome. I think he's going to get more bonus point wins. Again, when you're only wrestling the Big Ten and then NCAAs, that's probably not the best representation of how good you are, right?
Right.
So
you had a lot of good wrestlers last season in the Big Ten who you knew were better than the seed that they got at NCAAs, but it's because they had to wrestle the meat grinder that is the Big Ten. And not go to a Southern Scuffle and see EIWA teams and MAC teams and stuff like that. But also something interesting that came through during this offseason, Ryan Vassbender, D2 national champ, transfer in to Michigan State. Where do you see him? I think he redshirts this season.
Yeah, I would assume so.
Or do you think he could go up to heavyweight? Maybe is he big enough to?
He probably could. And we were talking about heavyweights being all exciting now, right? I think one of the big things with, because you're not getting that many guys that are the size of Adam Kuhn, right? You're not getting guys that are 280, and 6'5". You're getting more of the guys who are 230, 240, who are just better athletes and faster. So, I think, he could back on some pounds and get in that 220, 230 range and be pretty good there. Or like you said, you redshirt them and you let them just kind of be in a D1 room and get used to that. And I think Caffey, this will be Caffey's last year. So, and then, you can switch it out for another super good, talented wrestler when Caffey graduates.
Yeah.
Man, I would not want to move up to heavyweight right now with how tough heavyweight is in NCAAs.
Oh yeah, no, thank you.
I agree with that. But he's got the resume. He went 12-0 last season, 5-0 during the regulars. Obviously, he was a D1 champ, so obviously, he won. But he went 5-0 during the regular season. All bonuses for all of his wins: 3 pins, 1 tech, 1 major. We'll see what happens. Obviously, we all thought Spencer Lee was going to redshirt the entire year, his freshman year. He ends up coming out. We always think one way, and then coaches kind of throw us for a loop. We'll see, because that's a good kind of transition into 285 because we're hitting the 930 mark here on the East Coast. Christian Ribotaro from Michigan State, 1-6 last season. Heavyweight wasn't their strong suit last year. So that's why I was kind of saying, does Vassbender go up? Does that give him a little bit better of a team kind of aspect? It depends what Vassbender wants to do too, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I would think he'd be better than Robotaro right away. I honestly, and no disrespect to Robotaro, but or Rebitaro, whatever, however you pronounce it. It definitely sounds like I'm disrespecting him, though, right? Like, I can't pronounce your name, and
Not disrespecting, but I can't pronounce your name, and you didn't have a great record.
your name kind of sucks, and you're not good. No, so like I would think that he would be able to jump in and take that spot if he wanted to, but I mean, ultimately, you're not worried about the heavyweight situation at Michigan State. I don't think, it's a Big Ten. Whoever's in that spot is going to be near the bottom of the Big Ten anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're going Mason Parris as the top guy out of these three schools for obvious reasons, right? I mean, the dude major pinned everybody except for Gable Stevenson.
Yeah.
And then you're going Matt Stencil. He's better than anybody that Michigan State's going to have out there. So we interviewed Stencil a couple weeks ago, and he was telling us, he's like, yeah, it sucked last year just wrestling the MAC. I was bored, and that, it's no excuse, but it's the truth. Like, I wanted better competition, and I hate when guys try to just game, the system and run for me. And he's like, yeah, and also I got COVID, and that really actually sucked. Like, it was hard to come back from. I hadn't been training for 2 weeks or whatever. And then all of a sudden you get MACs and NCAAs, and it's like, I wasn't ready. Like, my body wasn't ready. I was out of shape, and it really affected me. And so I think, you're going to get a more aggressive and ready to go Matt Stencils. I mean, he went and he wrestled in, what was that? Not U23s. He wrestled in the US Open, and he was like, it was great because I got to wrestle a guy like Wisdowski. And he's like, I think I can beat Wisdowski. I just needed to feel what he was like. And he's like, I think I can beat Gable Stevenson. It's like, he's not going to just do those snap down things to me. He's like, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to fight him. I'm an athlete, and I think I can beat him, with my size and speed and strength and everything, and it's like his confidence in saying all that. I was like, I think so too now, and
I believe you.
Yeah, you sound really sure of yourself. What do you know that I don't know? So yeah, I think that he's going to be right there. He's going to be a top. He's going to All-American again for sure. I've got zero doubt in my mind, and he's going to beat everybody in the MAC up badly. First 5-time MAC champ ever, probably, right? So yeah, he'll be fine.
Yeah, and that kind of goes with the point of how his season played out statistically. The past, I think I wrote about it in an article. The past 3 years before this season, he had something like almost a 50% bonus rate, and it was like, of those bonus wins, 50% of them were pins or something. It was some ridiculous stat. He loves
pinning people. Loves it.
And last season he had one pin, and it was against a non-D1 guy.
Yeah.
And that didn't count for fantasy, obviously. It sucks because I had him on my team. I actually have Parris and Stencil on my team. So
nice.
Go me.
Yeah.
So next season, I definitely think he comes back. I think he becomes the Stencil that we know and love, the pencil, as you've dubbed him. And then Mason Parris, I think, we were talking about last season. He jumped levels. He looks like he went from that guy who was getting pushed out by Sam Stoll in NCAAs, who almost gets stalled out, or did he get stalled out, to being basically in a tier by himself outside of Gable Stevenson.
Yeah.
I think, and if Stevenson doesn't come back after this, because I fully expect him to win a gold tonight, my Barstool Sports betting account and FanDuel kind of rest on him for that. He becomes the number one, and then you have your second tier of Hilger and Cassiope and Stencil and all those guys.
Yeah.
So, I mean, last season with Mason Parris, he was the number 5 fantasy wrestler at 285. Stencil was the number 15 last year at 285. Funny enough, in 2020, Parris was number 1 in fantasy points. Stencil was number 2.
Yeah.
So
makes sense.
And I think the year before that, they traded off pins. Like one pin one in 10 seconds and the other one pinned the other one in like 15 seconds. It was just some crazy stat like that.
Well, and then the Bloodround match was another pin in like 2 minutes and 30 seconds or something. And
Yeah.
Steph obviously got it. But yeah, it's gonna be, I mean, these guys are so good. These guys are so good. If you're listening to this, like, you can get Stencil way later. Like, if you don't get Gable Stevenson or Mason Paris, then you're going to have guys going after like Kirk Fleet. You're going to have guys going after Hilger. You're going to have guys, going after Cassiope. You can get Stencil late and get a lot of good return for him.
And Elam's not in the MAC anymore.
Even when he was losing to Matt Stencil.
I agree. Yeah, so, I think that was like the second best guy at heavyweight.
Yep. And then there was the dude Laird from Ryder, who was in the finals. He's really good too. But yeah, you're gonna get Stencil late, and you're gonna get more return than you're gonna get from Cassiope probably.
Yeah, because like you said, you're gonna get grinded up in the Big Ten.
Real quick question for both of you: how do you think Ferrari does up at heavyweight next year?
I don't think he's going heavyweight.
Yeah, I don't. I was gonna say I haven't heard that confirmed anywhere. I think at some point he will, but I think he's still gonna hang at 97 for at least one more season.
Yeah, I think so too. I can't see him moving up, and I think it was a big troll job by him, because they have Austin Harris, right, at heavyweight. I think.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. I heard Ferrari's really struggling to make 97.
Well, let's say, for the sake of argument, he goes up to heavyweight, right? I think he would probably be an All-American. I think he would have to adjust his style a lot, though. I don't think that those, diving double legs from 6 feet out, I mean, 197-pound dudes are still heavy, right? But I think there's a big difference when you get stuck underneath a Cassiope, or you get stuck underneath a Matt Stencil, those guys are big, right?
Yeah, Mason Paris too. He's huge.
Yeah. So, and they'll, again, probably would All-American, but I wouldn't pick him to win the title.
Yeah.
We know he lifts weights, so I mean, he can definitely put on the mass. Probably he's got a 665 deadlift.
Yeah, well, he's not deadlifting these guys,
Yeah. I mean, I think. Well, he's also not super tall either, so I think he would struggle against some of the bigger heavyweights like Cassiope, like Kirkley, like Harris, like Stencil. Like, those guys are pretty big.
Right. And they're super athletic anyway, So
yeah,
he's not going to be able to out athlete a lot of them too.
Yeah. I just wanted to throw that out there, just
Well, we're going to be talking to Seth Duckworth about Oklahoma State for that reckless speculation, so we'll definitely bring it up.
Yeah.
He's got some thoughts about it.
Every time I talk to any Oklahoma State people, I'm just like, I need a John Smith story. Like, he's like, there's got to be a million good ones. I heard some great ones. Greg Immel, Richard Immel's dad, was telling me some amazing John Smith stories from when they were kids. And they would just, like, they were driving around in this old beat up, like, I don't remember what kind of car it was, but basically, like, they cut out the middle console in the back and they put a cooler in it, and they would just fill it with beers, and they'd drive around and go fishing in these like random ponds and just grab beers from their car cooler. Yeah. Awesome.
I got to meet John Smith a number of years ago at Nationals and hang out with him at the bar. And he was very quiet but nice, and talks a lot about his alpacas. So he has alpacas, I know that. But I couldn't believe how small of a person he is. Like, I'm a small guy, and I thought he would be a little bit bigger, but he's pretty thin and small. But nice guy. He was very nice.
A sentence I never thought I'd hear was John Smith likes to talk about his alpacas a lot. Like,
yeah.
Only here on the Fantasy College Wrestling Podcast.
I tell you what, I don't have alpacas, but if I did, I'd probably want to talk about them too.
I feel like John Smith is a cross between Chuck Norris, like when all those Chuck Norris like did this kind of quote things, and Bill Murray. Like, there's so many stories about Bill Murray doing stuff. You're like, no, he didn't do that. You're like, no, he actually put like grain alcohol in his mouth and spit a fireball. And
Yeah.
and then just walked out of the room. Like I could see like John Smith does that and just walks out, and everyone's like, "Holy shit, that was John Smith."
My favorite was when Krushmer was on the podcast with us, and he was telling us about how like Sammy Henson was at West Virginia, and he was like taking a long time to get there to get all the weigh-ins done, and John was trying to get his guys weighed in so they could hydrate and be ready for the duel. And he was like, he was telling somebody, he's like, you tell Sammy to get his ass here, or I'm gonna have to kick it again, or kick his ass again, or something like that. Basically, just like outwardly threatening the other opponent's coach as like a 60-year-old man.
No, if you guys want to do a separate podcast, I could tell you some stories about Sammy Henson.
Oh, I want good Sammy Henson stories too. He seems
he's a hoot, man. His son wrestles for my brother Kyle's team at Waynesburg.
Nice, yeah.
I've met Sammy, dozens of times, and he's just a great time, man. He's a crazy dude, but great wrestler, great technician, and fun to hang out with. Let me put
Ball of energy, I'm sure.
Yes.
Oh, I've never seen a bracket or magazine rolled tighter in my life than when it's in Sammy Henson's hands. But that was basically it, going through 25 to 80 285. We usually do the 3 random questions. I think we got a couple minutes if you're willing.
Let's do it.
All right, we'll run through these pretty quick. So let's see. First one, we're running low on the random questions, so I got a refill thing here. If you won $100 million, what would be the first thing you buy?
An Aston Martin DB5.
Oh, you've thought about this.
The James Bond car from Goldfinger. That's what I would buy. Very first thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Todd, what about you?
I get all the 100 million, like no taxes or anything. Like,
sure, why not?
Okay, so I would buy a Bugatti.
Nice.
Okay.
$3.5 million car, but if I have 100 million, I can afford it.
Yeah, no, for sure. You got 96.5 left.
Yeah.
I want to buy a nice garage for it.
I want a double 800 horsepower, and I want a 1600 horsepower engine to see what that feels like. Dual 800 horsepower, pretty cool.
Nice. I would put it in a Roth IRA. No, I would probably. I would probably
interest, like
exactly. All in Bitcoin. Everything's in Bitcoin. No, I would. I'd probably try to buy a sports franchise.
Ooh, that's a good one.
The only thing is, I don't know if 100 million could
maybe
buy a good sports franchise.
Maybe an ice hockey team, maybe an NHL team.
Yeah, it's tough because you look at like the Detroit Pistons sold a couple years ago, and that was for I think 400 million.
Yeah. And
now it's like so much more valued than that even. So yeah, you'd probably get a G League team.
Yeah.
You might, I don't know.
Philadelphia Blue Coats.
Could you get one of the baseball franchises for 100 mil? Like one that's really struggling, like the Blue Jays or someone.
I don't know. You know what? I would buy the XFL from The Rock. He bought it for like $15 million.
Lowball him.
Yeah,
I'll give you $2 million for this whole thing. Well, the guy who plays Mac on It's Always Sunny, Rob McElhenney, and Ryan Reynolds, they bought like majority ownership of some like 6-tier English football club.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
They were going to play the Philadelphia Union in an exhibition, but because of COVID constraints and stuff like that, they couldn't do it. But yeah, they own like the 6-tier team. And I think that would be fun. You just have an owner's box and you just get drunk at games it would almost be like the Hackensack Bulls from Brewster's Millions. You're basically as your team.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I would definitely buy a G League team if I could.
Yeah. I'm the Mark Cuban of the G League.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what else we got here. Okay, a straw, a regular drinking straw. Does it have 1 hole or 2 holes?
I am of the belief that it is 1 giant hole, but a cylinder in general has 1 hole. I think.
Okay.
In how I classify things.
Claunch's classification of straw holes.
Yeah. Yeah. All the holes.
It's very philosophical here. Todd, what about you? 1 hole, 2 holes?
I guess. I mean, how many, like a black hole, does that have 2 holes or just one? Like one giant, you fall in, right? Like,
Well, when we get Neil deGrasse Tyson on our podcast, we'll ask him.
So I guess one, yeah. Like if you you go in the straw one way and you come out, it's, but it's one giant just cylinder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
one hole leads to the end of the same hole.
Right. Yeah. I guess. Yeah, that's the way I would see it.
I agree. What a fun question. We all agree that it's 1 hole. I guess it depends on what you classify a hole as. Like, is it only one way goes in is considered a hole, and if you go the other way, is it 2, or does it stop or something?
To me, it's like if you open a door, does that mean that there's now 2 openings?
Right.
Yeah.
It's still one door. It's just the one door. You just go in and out. But like, if it was a long door, it's a long hallway or whatever. Like, it's still just one.
These are questions best not for me, who graduated as a history major and now works in insurance. It's not.
There's somebody listening to this that's like, this is bullshit. Like, this is 2 holes in a straw. There's 2 of them.
Some random physicist who's like listening to this random podcast. I'm going to go slum it. I'm going to listen to this podcast today. He's fucking idiot.
He's really
Tony. Since you brought up straws, interesting side note. Don't know if you heard. Yes, about straws. Don't know if you heard or not, but Westchester now has outlawed plastic straws. You can no longer get a plastic straw in any bar in Westchester.
I love sea turtles as much as the next person, but I also hate having the ice hitting my mouth. I need a straw.
Have you tried a paper straw? They're terrible.
They melt, basically.
Yeah. Just start bringing plastic straws with you everywhere. Have your
got to bring my own.
Yeah.
Delaware outlawed plastic bags. So that's fun when you forget after you already check out, having to carry everything back to the car like this. I'm not paying 10 cents for a bag. I'm going to carry it.
So Tony, I was at we were at Iron Hill eating and drinking, and they brought my drink out to me with the paper straw, and I was like, can I just bring a plastic straw? I don't like these paper straws. Like, oh, we can't. Like, there are no more plastic straws in Westchester. I'm like, yeah, you're messing with me. Like, no, they're not allowed anymore. And if any bar gets caught using them, you get fined. So,
we'd bring one out, but we'd have to kill you then.
Yeah. I thought the guy was messing with me, and he's like, no, I'm being dead serious.
It's like Prohibition. They got Pinkertons checking to see if people have plastic straws.
Yep.
All right, and final question. We might have asked this one. I just never took it out. Would you rather be a ball boy at a baseball game, a court cleaner at a basketball game, the down marker at a football game, or a net attendee at a tennis match?
Ooh, that's the answer is the court cleaner at NBA game. I would absolutely love that.
That's a lot of pressure.
Oh, dude, it's so much fun though, being down there and like watching, like, we went to bringing up the G League again. There's one in Grand Rapids, Michigan here, the Grand Rapids Drive. It's now the Grand Rapids Gold or something because the Denver Nuggets own it now. But they are affiliated with it. But we went to a couple games courtside, and it's like, and this isn't even the NBA, right? But it's a different game than any basketball I've ever played. It's not the same at all. And I was talking trash to one of the guys, and he nailed a 3. I was like, you're not going to make it. And he nailed it. And then he turned and was like yelling at me. And I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. That would be a lot of fun, I think. But I would love also doing the tennis one. I think that would be pretty sweet. You got to be on your toes though, like fast, and go get that.
Yeah. And if you slip, everybody saw it.
Yeah.
So much pressure.
Tennis is like crazy cool, man. Like the way how hard they hit those balls and the serves, and just, the spin they can put on it and where they have to get to the court. Plus I love that it's, by and large a one-on-one sport, and you see people just melt down and have these like mental just collapses. It's such a great sport.
I forget who it was, if it was Djokovic or somebody else, but they got removed from the match because they were frustrated and they hit a ball in anger and it hit one of the ball boys or Tenny like right in the neck.
It hit the judge. It hit the lady in the neck. Yeah.
It was a headshot.
He's like, whatever. Like, I don't think he checked on her.
He's
like,
so good. He doesn't have to look and can get a headshot from like 20 feet away.
Yeah. I every once in a while I go on YouTube and I watch John McEnroe just lose his mind and just scream at judges. It's awesome. I recommend it to everyone.
John McEnroe is the John Smith of commentating.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or maybe John Smith is the McEnroe or something like that. What about you, Todd?
Could I put one out there that you didn't mention, but I would like to do more than any of them?
Sure.
I want to be the ball spotter at a PGA event. I want to be the ball marker, the guy that like it's over here, like right here. I got it. Like
yeah,
that's good. It's funny watching those. They hit it like a little bit into the rough, and everyone just like stands around it. They immediately crowd the ball.
Yeah,
like there's something that's going to happen to it. You're gonna have to move anyway. Get the hell away from the wall.
Yeah. Like some jerk's gonna run over and pick it up and take off.
Yeah, I would do either that, like ball spotter at PGA or the floor cleaner at NBA. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
I think for me it might be ball boy at a baseball game because I don't know. I'm trying to think what the most entertainment value would be, like interaction with players, and they all have pretty good. Because if you're the line spotter for a football game, you're right there next to the coaches and the players and everything.
That's dangerous though, man. Those guys fly into those guys sometimes.
Oh yeah, and if you have the marker off by a little bit, they'll kill you probably.
And dude, a 7 foot tall human being is a freak of nature. It's terrifying to see. So like, how are you a human? Yeah, there's something different than that, you know. So
I actually got one time. We got floor seats for Sixers versus Lakers when Kobe was still with the Lakers.
Oh, nice.
And so we were down like on like third row up from the floor, like literally like right there.
Yeah.
And the height of these dudes is insane. Like the smallest guy on the court is like 6'6". Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's wild. It's basketball at that level is a different thing.
Yeah. I'd probably go ball boy or tennis, even though I can't crouch for it. I got bad knees. I got like 80-man-year-old knees, so I don't know how that would go. At least if I were a ball boy, I could like sit down on a chair or something.
Yeah.
But all right, cool. Well, we got some Olympic wrestling to watch. I know we're catching it right up into the minute, but Kevin, I appreciate you. I'm glad that the first time you came on didn't ruin your reputation so much and you agreed to do it again and come on. We really appreciate it. I know everyone knows where to get you, but where can the people find your great wrestling stuff? Yeah,
so bloodround.com is our website, at Bloodround on Twitter, at Claunchinator for mine. Co-host Tommy is at KOATIG, at Bloodround1 on Instagram. And yeah, we got some new merch that's going to be coming out, some new hats and whatnot too. So, keep on the lookout there. We took this week off because we didn't want to record mid Olympics, but we'll be back and our weekly podcast next week. So, but yeah, thanks for having me on again, guys. This has been a blast and I'm really pumped for fantasy wrestling this year.
Thanks, Kev.
Absolutely. And don't forget, or I didn't forget, you said that you were bringing the N64 to Detroit. So I'm holding you to that.
Yeah. I'm 100% bringing it. NCAA's in Detroit is going to be unreal. If you can go, if anybody who's listening to this can make it, do it. It's going to be awesome.
Oh yeah. But again, thank you for coming on. We had a blast as we always do, talking with you and talking wrestling, fantasy wrestling. So everybody, thank you for clicking. Thanks for listening. We'll check you next time. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.